NBA star LeBron James is out indefinitely with a high ankle sprain that he suffered in yesterday's game against the Hawks. Now that we have the diagnosis, let's talk about the mechanism of injury and discuss what you're all wondering. When will he be back, and how long will he be out for? For those who don't know me, my name is Sonam, and I'm a resident doctor specializing in sports and exercise medicine. On this channel, I'll break down injuries as they happen so that average fans can better understand what's going on. If you want to stay up to date, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's go back to reviewing LeBron James's injury. So here we have a quick playthrough of what happened at the moment of injury. So immediately when I saw this last night, I was worried about a high ankle sprain, and we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. But essentially what happened here was, unlike most sprains where you have a rolling out of your ankle, so your ankle actually rolls inwards and your ankle faces outwards, this one, his foot has rolled outwards. So we call that an eversion injury. When we have something like that, number one, it's actually super rare. You don't tend to roll your ankle like this unless you have someone fall on it, much like what happened here. And number two, when you have a mechanism like this, you're worried about a high ankle sprain. High ankle sprains are more severe than your ankle sprains on the side of your foot because they take longer to heal and may actually require surgical fixation. So this essentially is kind of just a pictograph looking at the difference between an inversion sprain and eversion sprain. This is what most people end up getting. They sprain the outside ligaments of their ankle when you roll that ankle outwards. This is what we saw in LeBron James's case. That foot was pointing outwards, that ankle came down inwards. And this here is an example of a football player that suffered a high ankle sprain. You can see that that foot is placed in the exact same position that LeBron James's foot was. Now, if we look at the anatomy that's causing the high ankle sprain, so usually the lateral ankle sprains are these ones. So these are the ones that most of you have rolled. Take a few weeks to get better and you're back to playing. The issue with high ankle sprains is that you actually injure the ligaments higher up the ankle. So this here is your ankle joint, and this is an important joint for stability. If you injure any one of these ankle joint or ligaments that are higher up, that basically help hold the tibia and the fibula in place, you actually are prone to a lot of ankle instability. You have this nice little space here, and if that space is disrupted because these ligaments have been ruptured or stretched, when you go to turn your ankle or move it up and down, there's a lot of instability in it. And this is why this injury is so dangerous. The other thing is, when you injure these ligaments, you can transmit a force vector that goes all the way up this, we call it syndesmosis, and actually can cause fractures up here. So LeBron James did have x-rays. We know they were normal. And he did have an MRI then to look at the ligaments themselves. So number one, we're not worried about fractures in that case with a normal x-ray. And the MRIs are really good for looking at ligaments, and diagnosed him with that high ankle sprain. So here are a few things that we actually look for on x-ray when we're imaging these patients who were suspected of having a high ankle sprain. As you can see here, this is that ankle joint that we talked about in the anatomy specimen. And when there's a disruption of the high ankle ligaments, this joint can start opening up. That is extremely dangerous when it comes to ankle instability. Now here is that example of that fracture, that force vector that will come all the way up and that could potentially cause a fracture in this area. So it's always something that we're aware of. Now when it comes to treating these high ankle sprains, I know many of you may be asking, how long will LeBron James be out? Now this is where the unfortunate part of this injury comes in. Regular ankle sprains that you and I get on a common basis take us out for a few weeks. High ankle sprains can actually be surgical if they're bad enough. So the problem is, if there's a lot of instability in this region, and we test it in a variety of ways and in physical examination maneuvers as well as x-rays with stress testing, you may actually need to put a pin in here to help stabilize it. Now, we don't know whether or not LeBron James's injury is that severe. We don't have that report yet, but it is a possibility. So worst case scenario, he would need something like this, for example, to stabilize the area. Now, how long will he be out for? So I did a deep dive into some research papers, and I'm going to post them up here. So one paper that looked at athletes after surgery stated that they could start training at about 37 days doing sport-specific activity, and then they could come back at approximately the 70-day mark. So you're thinking about 2.5 months. So another paper that looked at more conservative treatment, that I'm going to put up here, stated an average return to play anywhere from 55 to 45 days. And these were actually looked at in professional athletes. So basically, if he doesn't need surgery, he can come back a little bit quicker. Now, how do we treat these things? So number one, when it comes to high ankle sprains, you actually want to be non-weight bearing for a bit because that joint is really unstable. So it is not uncommon that we'll put people in in either crutches or in a walking boot. I'll put a picture up here for a few weeks, and then we slowly progress the rehabilitation. These ankle sprains are more finicky. They're more unstable, and they take almost twice as long to heal than lateral ankle sprains, which is why most fans were quite devastated that LeBron James suffered this type of injury. And I mean, when we go back to this type of injury that LeBron suffered last night, I am glad that he doesn't have any fractures, because that would have taken him out for a longer period of time. We are looking at approximately at least 2 months out, and that rehabilitation is very touch and go. A lot of these ankle sprains don't actually heal on a linear fashion. Some of them can go up and down, up and down. What we know of LeBron James is he comes back after injuries quite strongly. So hopefully he'll be back playing in approximately 2 to 3 months, but time will tell. If you have any questions or comments about this injury, leave them down below. If you like this video and want to stay up to date on more videos I do, please like and subscribe. For now, that's all.